Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank my friend and colleague Ravi Menon for inviting me to speak at this Singapore Fintech Festival. It's a very innovative hybrid format, and the organizers of the Choose Friends for Fintech event here in Paris, where this speech is being broadcast before the speech of Minister Cédric O. Last year, Ravi Menon came to the Banque de France physically and gave a remarkable speech. Can the three musketeers click? Finance, technology, trust. Earlier this year, the Banque de France opened a new office in Singapore, one of the epicenters of the fintech industry. What better forum than this Singapore Fintech Festival to deliver a speech on financial innovation? And what better way than this partner event in Paris to illustrate the excellent relations between France and Singapore. The subject of innovation and digitalization is all the more topical in light of the COVID crisis. Many of you have been following the very ambitious Ubin project that MAS has been carrying out for the past years. You may also know that Pulau Ubin is the name of a wild and protected island in the Straits between Singapore and Malaysia. But you may not know the traditional story of how this island was created. It says that the formation of Pulau Ubin was due to a frog, a pig, and an elephant, who challenged each other to a race from the island of Singapore to Johor across the Straits. Anyone who failed to cross would be turned into a rock. All three of them failed. But together, they formed a new ecosystem where life and nature would thrive. Let me now elaborate a bit on each of these three animals. They illustrate three key elements of digital regulations that are crucial to promoting a better ecosystem at the international level. I will start with the pig. It is a symbol of good luck and prosperity, a shield against bad fortune. And this leads us to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a sine qua non for a reliable and sustainable digital future. The cyber threat is global, so the cyber shield should be global too. Cooperation between authorities and jurisdiction is therefore essential. In November 2019, the Banque de France and MAS signed a memorandum of understanding on cybersecurity. Our teams have started to discuss since then. The global cyber shield also needs harmonized and strengthened regulatory framework. Clearly, progress has been made these past few years, in particular thanks to the publications of the FSB, a common lexicon 2 years ago, and a common cyber incident response and recovery toolkit this year. However, in order to address the remaining fragmentation, it is essential to structure the international governance on cyber issues. It could be partly inspired on what has been done in the area of money laundering with the FATF. Other important global challenges still need to be addressed, such as the oversight of information and communication technology third-party providers that are taking an indirect, albeit increasing role in the delivery of financial services. In Europe, an oversight framework for the most critical providers, including for cloud computing services, is proposed in the DORA regulation project. Such an ambitious initiative, which will involve the whole financial sector, could inspire a more global framework. Let me now move to the elephant. It has another useful talent, memory. This brings us to the issue of data protection. Financial supervisors and authorities in charge of privacy have to invent new ways of cooperation to address data issues and their interaction with financial services. We can all notice that there is a striking discrepancy between financial services being borderless and privacy regulations elaborated mostly at the country or regional level, reflecting differing social norms. Furthermore, technology disrupts users and pushes regulation to evolve, both in the financial and the privacy fields. The payments industry, in particular, makes an ample use of personal data. So we would need a global privacy data protection framework, just as we have a common financial regulatory framework with trustworthy, privacy-friendly financial services and an upward alignment of privacy regulations and best practices. Europe has harmonized its data privacy legislation, and the GDPR is becoming an international standard. We now need to extend cooperation further with our partners, and not only cross-border cooperation, but also cross-disciplinary cooperation. The pig, the elephant, and finally, the frog. As you know, it is a strong symbol of agility and transformation, from tadpole to frog. This is exactly what financial institutions and firms need to respect competition and antitrust rules. It is becoming an ever greater subject in Asia, echoing similar steps that are being taken in Europe. Bringing in new players is essential to challenge existing business models, such as the granting of licenses to digital banks by mass and other jurisdictions in Asia. We also need to make sure that similar activities and risks are addressed in the same way, regardless of the type of institutions involved. Situations where the winner takes most while staying outside of the financial regulated scope should be adequately anticipated and avoided. We have to collaborate more closely at the international level in order to adopt the most comprehensive approach across borders and regulatory scopes. Let me now come to a second point. I wish to say a few words on payments, because they are currently at the heart of digital innovation. Payments used to be considered as technical, back office, and even boring stuff. But a revolution is underway, and if financial institutions collectively miss it, it would mean a massive disintermediation of banks in the two key assets linked to payments. First, daily customer relations, and second, personal data. As central bankers and supervisors, our responsibility is to ensure that financial stability, monetary policy risk, and consumer protection challenges are well managed in this innovation. This revolution could also mean a major loss of sovereignty. We collectively could be dependent on a few private global players, already major global card schemes and more tech giants, with little control over business continuity and data protection. Meanwhile, the development of crypto assets and so-called stable coins aims to create a new category of settlement assets. Stable coins may compete against both commercial and central bank money. Take the example of cross-border payments, where improvement is badly needed. Even though stablecoins do not offer the same guarantees in terms of credit risk, liquidity, service continuity, and neutrality. This sense of urgency should prompt us all to collective action now. FSB and G20 actions are key in this field. In the last few months, Europe, for example, has made decisive progress in designing a holistic payment strategy, thanks to the commitment of the Commission and of our Eurosystem. This strategy includes three key elements. First, a European regulation of stablecoins, as drafted by the European Commission. FSB, G20, G7 published reports and statements, and our draft regulation is consistent with them. It's called MiCA regulations, as markets in crypto assets, and it has two strengths. it rightly speaks of crypto assets and not cryptocurrencies, which is a misleading expression. And in substance, the draft requires a strict supervision to ensure consumer protection and financial stability. Second, a European acceleration on CDBC, central bank digital currency. We, including we Europeans, cannot allow ourselves to lag behind on CDBC. That means that we may create, if necessary, a retail CDBC in order to ensure access to central bank money for the general public, in particular in countries where the use of cash is declining. It also means that we may decide to issue a wholesale CDBC with the aim of improving the functioning of financial markets and institutions and to preserve the anchor role of central bank money for interbank transactions. Within the Eurosystem, the ECB published a report last October, and we opened a public consultation until mid-January. Towards mid-21, the Eurosystem will decide whether to advance further a digital euro project, which would start with an investigation phase. Whatever the decision, let me stress that it would complement cash, not replace it. The Eurosystem will never abandon cash, as it is part of citizens' freedom to choose their means of payments. As a principle, central banks need to have an in-depth understanding of innovation and shouldn't be afraid to learn by doing. I speak today from the Banque de France lab, where we work with startups and innovators. And we are currently working with innovators from the private sector to conduct a program of 8 experiments on wholesale CDBC. Moreover, we want to work with other monetary authorities across the globe. MAS is not only a strong and trusted partner for us, but also among the most advanced on CDBC. In this respect, I am happy to announce that MAS and Banque de France will strengthen their cooperation with the aim of conducting tests on wholesale CBDC next year. Third element of the European strategy, a mobilization on private payments infrastructure. Thanks to the engagement of major European banks in the so-called European Payments Initiative, EPI, we definitely need to go beyond existing national schemes and offer cross-border solutions and a pan-European brand. Let me stress that there is no contradiction between considering a Euro CBDC and supporting EPI. Possible impacts of a CBDC on the banking sector could be reduced with different tools. For instance, by limiting the quantity of digital euro in circulation and distributing it through commercial banks. Let me conclude with a few words about green finance. In France and in Europe, we are aiming to put green finance at the forefront of our shared efforts. And I welcome the strong involvement of Asian central banks and supervisors within the NGFS, starting with the Monetary Authority of Singapore, but also the People's Banks of China, who are permanent members of the steering committee, as well as Bank Negara Malaysia and the Japan FSA. They have just joined the steering committee for 2 years. We can collectively be proud of the work achieved. Let me share a simple conviction with you. We can face the immense challenges of digitalization and climate change only by joining our forces together. Thank you for your attention, and I now leave the virtual floor to my friend, Minister Cédric O.